Welcome. You are listening to the Be a Better Being podcast, hosted by Michelle Zellner and Sasha Berscheid. Michelle and Sasha are here to give you information and inspiration to help you live your healthiest, happiest lives. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Greetings. Thank you for tuning into the Be a Better Being podcast. I'm Michelle Zellner, your host, and my co-host, my side host, I think we officially decided that's the term. Sasha is with me today. What's going on, gorgeous?
I am so excited just to be here intentionally and just talk about what we have created,
Yeah.
Super cool. So I'm glad that you and I are both taking time out of our incredibly busy schedule to be intentional for just like 10, 15 minutes.
Well, I love that too. And I appreciate you being here with me because, yes, listeners, this is not a mistake. You are getting a bonus episode this week. Today is International Podcast Day. And I mean, as podcasters, which we were not officially last year, I feel like we should be celebrating that and acknowledging it. So,
Yeah.
yay us.
Yay us is right. And yay you for pursuing this.
Well, as we have said several times on this show, it would not be happening if it wasn't for you. And honestly, if there was no podcast producer behind us as well, because I know that was my big resistance, was the whole technology piece of it. So we definitely have to give a shout out to Jessie with Venus Neptune Studios, because without that stuff, there's no way this would be happening either. So
She makes it happen. Thank you, Jessie, for making all of this happen.
Definitely. So let me ask you, Sash, like, I know when I first asked you, you were like, yes. So far, is it what you expected? What are some like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, or gee, I really don't like that, or gee, I really love that?
So the answer has nothing to do with the podcast. And what I would say is that the podcast has helped me hold on to hope. And I'm really excited to be able to look back in 1 year and say, oh my gosh, you guys, this is actually what was going on behind the scenes in my life. And I don't want to say at liberty to talk about it, but I'm going and I'm navigating through a lot of things in my life that I've never navigated or gone through before, a lot of feelings and emotions. And I think the podcast has allowed me hope. And so I think that when you first asked me, I was thinking it was going to go, one way, and then life happened. And now it's just like, okay, I can only control what I can control. And one of those things is being on the podcast. So I am thankful for it. And I'm going to ask you, what has been your highlight? And then, or do you want to start off with what has been your low light?
Wow. Gosh, low light with the podcast. I mean, it's probably the one I just did, not the one I just did, but I completely flubbed the name of a very important organization, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, not the Association for Suicide Prevention, which I say multiple times in that episode. I mean, I do try to pride myself on getting people's names right and names of organizations right. And I don't know what my brain was doing, because I have spoken to Dustin before, prior to that episode, and I've talked about the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and I really don't know where this other word or name. So I'm gonna say that is my low light, like really feeling like I have totally disrespected a very important organization. But as you reminded me, I am human, and that's sometimes what happens. My highlight, oh boy. I know I have said it on many of the podcasts. Oh, this is my favorite episode. This is my favorite conversation. Oh, I'm so excited to have this guest. Honestly, every time I say that, it is genuine. There are so many highlights. Just getting to reconnect with long established friendships that maybe haven't had a time to really talk to again or lately. Get to interview Mandy Connell, who has provided me such a huge microphone. So getting to do that on the other side. And I mean, honestly, Sasha, a lot of my highlights are the ones that you and I are just doing together, because I do feel like in some ways this is like verbal therapy, but it's like a verbal journal, right? It's an audio journal. And I was thinking too, just like you, I had a Facebook memory come up the other day, and it really triggered a thought. Like, the podcast is literally, it's an eternal dialogue, an eternal journal for us to go back and listen, to remind ourselves of what we were doing, how we were doing it, lessons we were learning along the way, celebrating the accomplishments that we had. And I think about, like, this is like, it's forever, right? This is out there forever, good or bad. But yeah, it'll be kind of fun in maybe 3 or 5 or 15 years to go back and listen and be like, wow. Because even sometimes when you and I have our conversations, I do put myself back at 35 years old and I think, wow, I remember those days. I remember that similar but different hard time. And I know how I've learned and grown from it. And it doesn't give me hope. I have no, I have no doubt of where you are going to go. And then I also think about listeners who are listening to these things and they're resonating with the things you're going through, or maybe some of the things I've been through, and knowing that the things we're doing are probably helping people.
I absolutely love knowing that that we are helping people know that they're not alone. Because so oftentimes that's what I hear. I just feel alone, or I don't know what to do. I feel alone. And it's like, you are not alone. You are not alone. And just by telling me that, now you're welcome and to my community, and you're stuck with me forever. So I love the fact that this podcast is so, it's like a baby right now, right? We're just figuring out how to make the baby grow and happy and healthy and all these things. And I love, one of my favorite things that, I know we've said this before, but I have to keep reminding people, we don't script anything. We don't, so it's completely you allowing me to be myself and vice versa. I'm expecting you to show up completely authentically you and raw, and just allowing us to have space in the podcast world that is like, guys, we're human. We mess up. We make mistakes, but at the same time, we celebrate life and we look at our accomplishments and where we are now and where we can be. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
I agree. I have to say, maybe the thing I'm most proud of about both of us so far is we have stuck true to the very first episode. What we've said we were going to do is to just do our best to be a better being, do our best to help others be the best they can be. Whatever the topic is that we have talked about, there is some element that will help people be better in some way. And that's the whole point too, is just to highlight for everybody that we're all in a different place on the journey. There are certain episodes that some people are like, that's dumb, that's really boring, I don't care about that at all. And yet that could be the episode that changes somebody else's life. One of my personal friends reached out to me about the one that you and I did with Greg. And she was like, wow, that was so powerful. And she's my age. And I was like, well, I never expected that to come from you about this episode. How so? Well, she shared that it really highlighted for her some of the things Greg was saying about how she is dealing with her daughter, who is roughly Greg's age, a little bit younger. And she's like, gosh, I never thought of it from their perspective like that. I just think of it like from the mom perspective. So that's an episode that I totally did not even think about people my age, like, that resonating with. I really, in my lens, thought, oh, this is what the millennials, they'll really love what he has to say, or the Gen Zers, and, will probably really resonate with that generation. So that's the other thing, is you never know what you're going to say and who it's going to reach.
And I love that we're able to highlight just a full spectrum, every single type of person. Like one of my coworkers, for example, she said, I knew that you highlighted me in it, so I made my daughter listen to it so that she could hear my name. And it was just like, good, because you need to be empowered and you need to be acknowledged. So I love that we acknowledge people for their strengths, but I also love that we highlight our weaknesses. I love that.
Because that's real life, and good, bad, ugly, it is what it is. And I know some of the things I go back and listen and I'm like, "Ugh." I know you don't like to listen to the episodes, but I do, for a couple of reasons. One, I want to make sure that we are we are staying true to the message that we intended. But also, if we said something in the podcast that is like a future, like, oh, we should do this, I need to go back and make a note like, okay, we said we were going to do this. We need to probably make sure we do that. And when you're in the middle of a conversation, you don't remember all those things. Like half the time I go back and listen, and I'm like, I said that? Wait, we talked about that? I don't remember that at all. So it is interesting. I hope at some point you get to a place where you are comfortable listening. It's never fun listening to yourself ever, and we get over that. And maybe that's the part that is not super awesome, but it is what it is. And it's part of doing a podcast.
Yes, that will be a goal. I'll write that in my healing journal. I have yet to listen to one of our podcasts. I cannot do it to myself. I don't allow these thoughts often, but sometimes I'm just like, why would Michelle want me to be your co-host? Why would she want me? And then it's just like, Sasha, who are you? Come on, let's go. And so one of the things that I'm excited to do this next year is bring in people who have battled with addictions. And so that's what I'm going to be bringing in a lot of my friends or persons that I have met that have battled and are currently battling or overcome addiction. And for me, because this podcast has given me so much hope, that's what my intention is going to be set for this next, the rest of this year, is just to provide hope to those who feel like they're struggling or they feel alone. And so that's where I'm at. And I hope that one day I do listen to the podcasts, because I know that they're beautiful, and I'm excited to bring in that version of Sasha with open arms and saying, come here, just listen to yourself, love yourself, you're okay. But I'm not there yet.
And that's okay. It's a process. And, even when I listen to it, I don't hear Michelle and Sasha talking. I hear two people having an authentic conversation, truly. And, maybe sometimes I get a little nitpicky with the things I say or way I say them, or wish I didn't say that, or, oh, I forgot to say that. But I mean, that's the thing about a podcast is we get to continue to have conversations. And so at some point it will be said. But yeah, we're learning and growing. And I would say too, for me, I think the biggest area of growth that I want to see in the podcast is just the exposure of it. And I am so excited that we have added a new person to the team who will be taking over the growth and exposure of it shortly. So listeners, just be on the lookout. If you follow us on social media anywhere, I anticipate you will be seeing a lot more, because we can't do it all. Well, let me rephrase that. We can do it all. We're choosing not to do it all because I don't like it. And Sasha has a incredibly full plate that I'm just even grateful she's even here to record, honestly.
I feel guilty for dropping the ball on social media stuff, but hey, we're human.
No.
That's what this episode is reminding people, that you are human, you guys. We're built in with mistakes. It's okay. You're human. So I'm okay with it. And I think our newest team member is going to do an incredible job.
And you haven't dropped the ball on anything. Your life has changed dramatically from when we started to do this. And that's what being a better being is all about, is recognizing those shifts and being a team. And you and I are a team. Sashelle is a team. And when it isn't working the way maybe we had hoped or I had hoped, then the team figures out a way to make it work. And that's how I go about life. That's how I go about doing things. And it only works that way when you have somebody that you can talk to about it.
Communication is key, and transparency, authenticity, and saying like, help,
Yep.
help me.
Yeah. Not being afraid to step up and say, it's too much, or, hey, I don't like it. I mean, I know the things I don't like doing. And so I'm always going to find a way to make it happen anyway, because I do believe that if you're going to do something, do it the best you can. And a lot of times that does mean pulling in outside help. And I'm really grateful that I'm in a position, and you and I are in a position to be able to do that, because looking at statistics, I know a lot of podcasts don't make it past 6 months. And I know a lot of that is because they're trying to do it all themselves, and guaranteed this would not have made it past if that was the case. It takes a lot. And when I'll add another thing. I think maybe this is silly, but one of the best things I like about having a podcast is now when somebody says, "Do you have a podcast?" I can say yes. Because man, did I get that for many years. You need to do a podcast. You should have a podcast. I do. And it's kind of fun to say that now. It
I
also
love that.
it opens a lot of doors. It really does. I mean, I've met some amazing people and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love for you to share your story on the podcast. So we're going to have an amazing lineup of people coming up. And yeah, there's no shortage of people with stories and ways to help people. And I love that we can offer a platform for that.
Amen to that, sis. So thank you guys so much for intentionally listening to us. Thank you so much for supporting us, empowering us, and joining us when you do. And this is just a shout out to all of you, your listeners, and all of you who will be on our show or have been on our show. And happy International Podcast Day.
Yes. And cheers to you, my dear. Cheers to us. Cheers
Yeah.
to the Be a Better Being podcast, celebrating our very first International Podcast Day, and hopefully many more to come.
Yes. Thank you so much. And everyone, like Michelle always says, go out there and be a better being.
Thank you for listening to the Be a Better Being podcast. Michelle and Sasha hope that what you heard today inspires you to embrace this journey of life with an open mind, a kind heart, and a willingness to learn and evolve. If you enjoyed the content, please help spread their message by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review. If you have a show topic idea or would like to be a guest, please visit betterbeings.net and fill out a contact form. Until next time, go and be a better being.